All right, ready to dive into something a little unexpected. We're going to go beyond just the laughs and explore the surprising depth of Over the Hedge. You're thinking a cartoon about talking animals scrounging for snacks could be packed with, like, philosophy and religious parallels?
Yeah, it might seem like a kind of strange combo at first, but trust me, this film weaves those deeper themes into what seems like a simple story. It really shows how strong storytelling can be, even in, animation.
Exactly. And one of the most obvious things is that hedge, right? It's not just a plain old barrier, is it?
Oh, absolutely not. The hedge is like this big symbol. It shows all those boundaries everyone runs into. Think about the Garden of Eden, like forbidden fruit and all that, or those veils they used to have, separating temples, sacred spots from the normal world. The hedge in the movie, it's doing something similar, separating the comfy world the animals know from that kind of scary suburban world.
Okay, so I'm getting how a hedge becomes more than just some bushes. But how does that connect to, us, our lives? What hedges do we actually deal with?
Think about all the choices we make every day. The ones that make us stick to what we're comfortable with, the fears that stop us from taking chances, those assumptions that keep our views small. Those are all like hedges in our lives.
So, like, crossing that hedge in the movie, it's more than just a physical thing, right? It's showing us venturing into the unknown, facing those limits head on, pushing ourselves to grow.
Exactly. It's a powerful metaphor for how we grow personally and spiritually. The film is kind of asking us, what are we guarding inside our own hedges? What might we miss if we never peek over the other side?
In talking about pushing boundaries, we got to talk about RJ the raccoon. He's more than just a charming troublemaker.
Yeah.
Something deeper's going on.
Oh, RJ is a textbook trickster. That archetype pops up in myths and stories all over the world. Think Loki from Norse myths or Hermes in the Greek ones. They're known for being clever, bending the rules, shaking things up.
So RJ, with his scheming and manipulating, he fits right in. But here's the thing, he doesn't stay the same. He goes through a change in the movie.
That's where it gets really interesting. He starts out totally selfish, right? Manipulative, even using the other animals. But going into the human world and facing what he's done, he starts to shift.
It's almost like a redemption story, wouldn't you say? From trickster to something more.
You could say his journey mirrors those savior figures, even. Think about it. He tricks the animals first, brings them to this world full of temptation and danger, kind of like the serpent in the Garden of Eden. But in the end, he sacrifices what he wants for the group, takes the blame for their actions, even risks his neck to protect them.
Yeah, that's a cool parallel. So RJ isn't just this funny, smooth-talking character. He's this complex figure whose journey touches on self-discovery, redemption, even sacrifice. Deep stuff.
Exactly. And his impact on the other animals is huge, too. By making them face their fears, by shaking up their limited view of things, he pushes them to grow.
So even though he causes chaos, it all leads to growth. For him and those around him, we've all been there, right?
Hmm.
Pushed out of our comfort zone, uncomfortable at first, but in the end, it leads to something good.
It's universal. Shows how challenges and tough times can shape us. The film reminds us that disruption and discomfort can actually be what makes us grow and change.
Now, that growth idea connects to another big thing in the film, how it criticizes consumerism.
Yeah.
How does Over the Hedge use these simple characters to talk about something as complex as our relationship with stuff, with material possessions?
It uses satire, and it does it brilliantly to show just how much we overdo it with consumer culture. Remember that scene where the animals are totally hooked by the Verminator infomercial?
Oh, yeah. With Gladys, the homeowner, obsessed with wiping out anything that comes near her perfect lawn.
Exactly. That scene nails how advertising uses our insecurities to make us want things we don't need. It mocks our obsession with convenience, our fear of anything natural or wild, and how we'll spend a fortune to control our environment.
And it's not just that infomercial. The whole human world, they show manicured lawns, giant SUVs, endless processed food. It's all a comment on how disconnected we are from nature, how we value material stuff over real connection and, well-being.
It's asking us to really look at our own relationship with consumerism, but it does it subtly and effectively. Are we like Gladys, so focused on a perfect, sterile life that we've lost sight of nature's beauty and how everything's connected?
Makes you think, doesn't it? How much has consumerism shaped what we value, our priorities? Have we become like those godlike figures?
Mm-hmm.
The animals see humans as powerful but maybe clueless about what our actions do?
The film doesn't give easy answers, but it nudges us to step back and look at our own role in all this, to think about the impact of our choices on ourselves and the world. And it's not just the stuff we buy, you know? The film also kind of pokes fun at our obsession with order and control, wanting to sanitize and tame nature. Like how Gladys plans her garden so carefully, all the pesticides she uses, that perfect lawn. It shows a mindset where nature's got to be tamed and controlled, not something to respect and live alongside.
You're right. It's like she's building her own barrier against the natural world, her own hedge, basically.
Exactly. And the film challenges that fear, that need to keep things wild and separate. It suggests that real harmony comes from understanding how connected everything is, knowing we're part of nature, not apart from it.
That makes me think about how the film explores all these different types of love. It's not just romantic love.
Nope, not at all. The film shows all these different relationships, and each one represents a different side of love. You've got Vern and his family showing that traditional protective love, all about loyalty and responsibility.
Right, right. And then there's Hammy, like bursting with energy and that playful, almost innocent affection.
And how can we forget Stella, the skunk? She turns all those ideas about beauty and attractiveness upside down. It reminds us that love isn't about fitting in with what society says. It's about owning who you are, finding people who love you for that.
I like how the film shows that love can pop up in the most unexpected places, like between Stella and the Verminator.
That's a great example of how the film messes with what we expect. It's not your typical love story, but it shows how strong connection can be, how transformative. Seeing past those surface differences and realizing we all share that human spark, you know?
It makes us think about love in a bigger way, like a force that can connect things that seem totally opposite.
And it's not just romantic love either. The film celebrates community too, finding your place and getting support within a group. Think about how those animals come together, even with all their differences, to overcome those challenges.
That sense of community, everyone working towards the same goal, it's pretty inspiring. Reminds us that we're not meant to do life alone, that we need each other to really thrive.
And it comes back to that idea of breaking down those hedges, those walls that keep us apart. The film says that real fulfillment comes from connection, building bridges instead of walls.
So Over the Hedge, it's funny and entertaining, but it also says a lot about what we value, our relationships, and how we fit into the world. Like you said before, storytelling is powerful.
For sure. It reminds us that even lighthearted stuff can get us thinking, get us talking about important things, and make us look closer at ourselves and the world.
This film isn't just about pointing out problems, though, is it? There's also this feeling of hope, a message about how things can change for the better.
Oh, absolutely. It acknowledges the challenges we face, but ultimately it's about resilience, adapting, and the power of connection that never goes away. Remember that final scene? The animals, they've made it through the human world, got their food, and they're celebrating together.
Yes, it's a beautiful image. Community, finding joy and plenty, even when things have been tough.
That scene sums up the film's message. Even in a world where consumerism, technology, and that human need to control everything are so dominant, there's still hope for harmony, for connection, for a way of life that respects how connected everything is.
It really hits home, especially these days. But how do we make that message real? How do we go from just talking about the issues to actually making positive changes?
That's the tough part, right? The film doesn't give us a step-by-step guide, but it gives us inspiration, some direction. It encourages us to think about our own values, to question those social norms that keep consumerism and environmental damage going, and to look for ways to live in better harmony with nature and each other.
It's a call to action, but it also says, hey, change takes time. It's a process, a journey that needs patience, persistence, and a willingness to try new things, to leave our comfort zones.
And it's better together. The film really highlights how important community is, how collective action can make a more sustainable and fair world. It reminds us that we're not in this alone. There are tons of people, groups out there trying to make things better.
So it shows the problems, but it also says, hey, we can be part of the solution.
Exactly. It's not about feeling doomed. It's about hope. It's about recognizing that we have the power to make different choices, to build a better future for ourselves and everyone who comes after us. And it starts small, with individual actions that spread out, creating a wave of positive change.
This has been amazing. I'm really surprised by how much depth and meaning there is in a film that, on the surface, just seems like a fun cartoon.
It really shows how film can explore complex ideas and get us to think differently. And Over the Hedge, it uses symbolism, humor, and those well-developed characters in a way that's both entertaining and makes you think.
It's made me think differently about my own relationship with buying stuff, with nature, and with all the different types of love that make life richer. And what about that hedge itself? We've been talking about it like symbolically,
Mhm.
but in the film, it's really there. It's like a wall between the animal's world and the human's world.
Right, it's that physical line between nature and all that human stuff spreading out. It's a visual reminder that when humans expand, it often hurts the environment and the creatures living there.
So the animal's going over the hedge. It's like a metaphor, right? It's about all the challenges of living with humans
Yeah.
in a world that's more and more urban.
Exactly. It makes you think about adapting, figuring out how to keep our wildness, our connection to nature, even when we're surrounded by human stuff.
And it's not just physical space either, right? It's also those mental and emotional hedges we build to protect ourselves from what we see as dangerous in the human world.
That's a really important point. The film encourages us to look at those barriers inside us, those fears and prejudices that keep us from truly connecting with people who are different.
So crossing the hedge, it's like a symbol of breaking down those walls, of being open to diversity and finding common ground.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that we're all connected, that how well we do depends on how well the planet and all its inhabitants are doing.
This whole conversation has seriously changed how I see Over the Hedge. It's so much deeper than just a funny cartoon.
The film that works on different levels, like makes you laugh, entertains, but also makes you think about your values, what you do, and how you fit into the world.
It's a good reminder that even with all the consumerism, technology, and how crazy fast modern life is, there's still space for awe, for connection, and for understanding our place in nature a little better.
And it gives you hope. The film says we can change things. We can make different choices, break down those hedges, and create a future that's more in tune and sustainable.
I love that. So next time we run into a hedge in our own lives, a real barrier, something we believe that holds us back, or a fear maybe we should think about RJ and his crew.
Think about how brave they were, how tough they were, how they were willing to go into the unknown. Ask ourselves, what can we learn from them? How can we use those lessons in our own lives?
That's a perfect way to wrap this up. Thanks for going on this deep dive with me.
Happy to do it. Always fun digging into those hidden layers of things that seem simple at first.